today we will be discussing about the topic, weaning of breastfed babies. And we will be focusing on the question, is early weaning justified? This is a controversial topic, and we, as a group, have decided to take a stance today by proposing that early weaning should not be justified. I would like to begin this presentation by introducing my team members and their roles in this presentation. Then I will go on to provide some information regarding the background knowledge for weaning. Firstly, Bhavna will be presenting to us why early weaning could be justified. Secondly, Pat will be analyzing a study regarding the association between early weaning and the rapid weight gain in infants. And finally, Ben will be providing studies which shows the correlation between infant feeding practices and the prevalence of macronutrients. I would now like to move on to provide some background information. Let me start off with providing some definitions to ensure a clear understanding of the topic. Weaning, as defined by the World Health Organization, also known as the WHO, is the introduction of solid feeding and the gradual replacement of milk by solid foods as the main source of nutrition. This definition is significant as it is commonly being mistaken as the complete cessation of breastfeeding, as when in fact infants are still fed with breast milk, but in small amounts during the weaning period. Early weaning refers to when solid foods are introduced to infants before the age of 17 weeks. In the 1900s, weaning process occurs when the infants are more than 1 year of age, as opposed to the 1950s when it occurs only after 17 weeks. As you can see, the timing of introduction of solids has been an ongoing problem for many decades, and hence why we chose this question. The WHO currently recommends the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. Despite this, constant debate still occurs concerning the period of time parents should be exclusively breastfeeding their infants. This may be because the WHO chose to use observational studies, and only 2 control trials were used, and both of these did not receive high methodology ratings. Besides that, as the WHO recommendation in 2001 was initially set up to make an attempt to reduce the morbidity in developing countries, it may be unclear whether the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months would apply to developed countries, as many of their conditions, such as the quality of food, may be very different. In this presentation, we are going to explore some of the research and explain why we take our stance to support the exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. Thank you. I would now like to hand over to Bhavna, who will be talking about why early weaning could be justified.
Thank you, Dana, for providing us with a concise overview on this controversial topic. Despite having a stance that weaning should occur only after 6 months, I would like to suggest possible suggestions why early weaning could be justified. First of all, however, we must consider why mothers choose to early wean. Many mothers perceive that their infant needs solids and are ready for solids based on subjective indicators, such as the infant putting their fist into their mouth, putting objects into their mouths, as well as wanting extra feeds and being unable to sleep at night. Recently, there has been an increase in the prevalence of studies that have yielded good scientific evidence that early weaning should be justified and that solids should be introduced into an infant's diet earlier than previously advised. While the WHO recommends exclusive breastfeeding for no less than 6 months, recent findings suggest that solids should be introduced as early as 4 months. Based on the study conducted in the British Medical Journal in 2011, weaning before 6 months may help breastfed babies. According to the authors in the BMJ review, they said that introducing solids into an infant's diet in developed countries will help them to be exposed to a range of micronutrients that will benefit them. It also suggests that the WHO guidelines and existing government advice should be reassessed following the latest research. Babies who were exposed to solids at 3 to 4 months as opposed to 6 months, was associated with the better iron status. This is very crucial in the development of a child. Furthermore, infants who were exposed to solids only after 6 months had low levels of hemoglobin and low ferritin levels. This was associated with adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes. This could be due to breast milk having a relatively low iron content. According to the BMJ, it also suggests that weaning after 6 months would increase the risk of developing allergies, as the infant would be exposed to the substance causing the allergy at a later stage, such as gluten. There's been an increase in the prevalence of celiac disease, as the infants were only exposed to gluten after 6 months of age. Another benefit is that it helps the immune system to accurately differentiate between proteins that are harmful and proteins that come from foods such as egg. Despite the previous counterclaims, we as a group strongly believe that solids should only be introduced after 6 months of age. This is not only due to the advantages that my colleagues Pat and Ben will soon present, but it's also due to the flaws present in the research. Since the prior research was a narrative review, which means the sample size cannot be determined. And since the sample size cannot be determined, the sample size could have been relatively small, and this does not represent the population. And since it doesn't represent the population, we can say that this is only valid for the limited population size. Furthermore, the study was also, alternately, correlation does not imply causation. This means that due to early weaning, we can't say that a child will have a higher iron status or a lower risk of allergy, because we cannot say that weaning is the primary cause of it, as tests on correlation haven't been conducted in this study. The BMJ was originally conducted in order to challenge the views of the WHO that was conducted in 2001. However, since this study was a non-systematic review, which means that it did not report on how the search for literature was carried out, and also which studies were included. They didn't have a certain criteria, a certain quality to follow. This research was non-systematic. To improve this research, this research needs to be improved before any recommendations can be made. And thus, a systematic review is required, where thorough methods and only studies that meet a certain quality would be included. Lastly, the research was primarily observational, which means that the researchers can make observations between things, but it doesn't have control over the sampling method. It only observed a group of people. I would now like to hand it over on to my colleague Pat, who will speak to us about the advantages of weaning after 6 months of age. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna, for talking us through the counterclaims. I would like to now move on to talk about